There is nothing more painful than realizing the spark between two loving hearts is fading. But how do you recognize when the connection is truly broken? When a woman decides to end a relationship, she doesn't always state it openly. However, careful observation can reveal troubling signs. This overview will explore 6 subtle yet telling signals indicating her readiness to leave, along with potential courses of action. There's no need to wait for an inevitable collapse. Learn to recognize these precursors to a breakup and understand their true meaning. We'll delve into one of the most sensitive topics in relationships: the moment a woman decides to walk away. No matter how strong the bond once was, sooner or later, a critical point arrives where everything begins to crumble. Even if she doesn't utter the fateful words, her actions, phrases, and behavior will reveal everything without reservation. Below are 6 key indicators of her waning interest. This isn't about loud arguments or heated disputes, but rather subtle shifts in her behavior and attitude that signal a change in her feelings. Ultimately, you'll be able to clearly understand what to look for and what these signals mean. This isn't about mere speculation, but about a clear understanding of these cues so you can take control of the situation, either try to save the relationship or move on before it's too late. The first sign is a sharp decline in communication. At the beginning of the relationship, conversations flowed freely and naturally, whether through texts, calls, or in-person meetings. There were always shared topics to discuss, but suddenly, everything changes. Her responses come with delays. She might ignore a simple message for hours, sometimes even days. And when she does reply, her energy isn't the same. Her answers are cold, reserved, and lack the former enthusiasm that once sparkled in her words. This shift in communication isn't just a result of being busy, it's a deliberate disengagement. She no longer feels the need to maintain contact because her emotional investment has dwindled. If you notice your conversations have become shorter, less frequent, and increasingly one-sided, it's a clear signal of her emotional withdrawal. One of the most obvious signs lies not in her words, but in what she withholds. Body language speaks louder than any words. When she was emotionally invested, her body instinctively gravitated towards you. She sought closeness even during moments of rest. Perhaps she would gently touch your shoulder while laughing at your jokes, or comfortably snuggle up next to you when you watched a movie. If these gestures suddenly vanish, it's not just a coincidence. Her body language becomes closed off. She more frequently crosses her arms, avoids physical contact, and even turns away during conversations. These nonverbal cues indicate that she no longer feels an emotional or physical connection. When a woman decides to end a relationship, her body often says what her words cannot. When a woman begins to emotionally distance herself, you'll notice she stops including you in her future plans. The days when she enthusiastically suggested joint outings, trips, or even just coffee dates are a thing of the past. Now, she's constantly busy or shows a clear lack of interest in spending time together. When you try to suggest something, her responses become evasive, maybe next week, or I don't know yet. It's not about her genuine busyness, she's simply avoiding spending time with you because, in her mind, she has already moved on. This isn't just about cancelled or rescheduled dates, but an entire pattern of behavior. If she no longer shows enthusiasm for planning a shared future or fills her schedule without your involvement, it's a clear signal that the relationship is nearing its end. Another significant sign of a woman's waning interest is a shift in her attitude from warm to critical. What she once laughed at or simply overlooked now becomes a source of irritation. Minor quirks that she once found endearing now cause her significant displeasure. If you notice her becoming increasingly critical of your actions, habits, or even your manner of speaking, it's an alarming signal that her patience has worn thin. When she loses interest, she doesn't strive to fix anything. Instead, she starts looking for reasons why the relationship isn't working. This behavioral change might be subtle at first, but it soon escalates into constant criticism. If her tone has become sharper and her patience has diminished, it's a clear indication of her emotional detachment. You'll also notice she starts dedicating more time to other relationships, whether with friends, family, or colleagues. This doesn't necessarily mean she's seeking a new romance, but her emotional energy is now directed outside your relationship. If she begins spending more time with other people and talking about them, while your relationship takes a back seat, it's a clear sign that her priorities have shifted, and unfortunately, you are no longer her top priority. This isn't to say she's necessarily cheating, but emotionally, she has already begun to move on. If the people she spends more time with do not include you, it's a troubling sign of an impending end to the relationship.